Welcome to Close to Home's Basic Sampler for June 2024. You can bring in your completed May 2024 basic block beginning this Saturday, June 15th through Saturday, June 29th to receive your June kit free. Remember, there's 1 day left for our floor model sale and our buy 2 yards, get 1 yard free. And it's this Saturday only, June 18th, is the last day of this sale. We will also have finished the bolts at 50% off selected fabrics. So come on in and check out our finished bolts. This month, we are going to be working on an on-point block. Very simple squares and triangles, but we're going to turn our block so that we're going to learn a little bit about side setting triangles and corner triangles. So our cutting for this month, we're going to do the white. I need 2 5 1/4 squares, and we're going to cut those on the diagonal once, and then 2 2 7/8 squares cut on the I'm sorry, did I just say once here? You're going to cut the 5 1/4 on diagonal twice, and the 2 7/8 squares cut on the diagonal once. Simply, we only need 1 white seed fabric at 3 3/8, and then all 3 of these fabrics are the same size pretty much in the kit, and they will yield 4 3 3/8 squares. So the only ones that you're going to be cutting are the white ones on the diagonal twice and on the diagonal once. These will be our corners, these will be our side settings. So let's go take a look at the 3 3/8 marking on our ruler. Pretty important. I'm just going to do the sable because it's easier to see on the sable. Here we go. First thing I want to do is get a nice clean edge, so I'm just going to trim my square and trim this side up so it's nice and even. I'm going to turn it around because I am right-handed, and we're going to measure 3 3/8. The marks on my Creative Grid 8.5 by 12.5 inch ruler, these marks are 1/8 inch markings. So we're going to count over the 1, 2, 3, and then 3/8. 1, 2, 3. And we're going to line that up here, 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 all the way down. I'm getting off a little bit. There we go. And make sure they're all on the 3/8. So if you do that, you'll have a nice parallel 3 3/8, and then you can continue to measure this one 3 3/8 and create your squares. So on these, we just need squares, 3 3/8, this one 3 3/8. On the white, what I'm going to do is fold my fabric in half. You don't have to if you don't want to. And then I'm going to measure over, again, just trim my edge, nice and neat. Spin this around, 5 1/4. So we got to look at those 1/8 marks again. Here's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and 2/8 is our 5 1/4. Okay, just double check yourself. Make sure that that nice clean edge is on that 5 1/4 all the way up and down your ruler. Then you can go ahead and cut. And then we're just going to turn to get a square. We're going to line up the top of our cut edge with a nice straight line of the ruler, trim off this side, so now I have a nice 90-degree corner on both edges. And to get a square, I measure 5 1/4. So on this one, I like to put it on any one of the lines, and I'm looking at the 5 and 2/8 is 1/4. So again, I'm measuring from here, looking at that cut edge all the way down and all the way across my 5 1/4 to get a nice square. So having these squares at the 5 1/4, maybe a little smudge this way, and then this one gets cut on the diagonal twice. So from corner to corner, it's nice I have this 45-degree line right here on my ruler, so I can place it right in the corner, and I know if this is square and that's 45, my two corners are going to meet up. So I'm going to go ahead and trim on the corner twice, corner to corner. All right. And now the 2 7/8. So again, here we are with our eighth markings. We want to measure over 1, 2, and 7/8. 8/8 would be a whole number, which would be right on the 3. So it's 1/8 shy of 3. So if we count from this direction, we have 1 full inch, 2 full inch, and 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. So we're going to place the edge of our strip right on the 7/8. Go ahead and cut that. All right, and now that we have 2 7/8, we're going to create 2 squares, same way we did the 5 1/4, and we're only going to cut those on the diagonal once. All right, so let's lay out our block. The first thing we're going to do is with our squares, we're going to create 2 units that are feather, black seed, feather, and we're going to sew those together to create two little strip sets. And then the third one we're going to do is a sable, black seed, white seed, black seed, and sable. And again, we're going to sew each of these and create another row of a set. Just 1 of these and then 2 of these. Okay, and these are all just sewn as you go. Just keep bringing them, flipping them, doing your 1/4 of an inch all the way across until you get the, do not press yet. Okay, just hold off on the pressing. The last thing you want to do to these strip sets is the long strip set that ends with the 2 sables. You're going to take the smaller triangle from the 2 7/8, and you're going to place those at the end. These are called corners. So we're going to take right sides together. We're going to find the center. So I have equal, you can fold this in half, you can mark the center however you want, and we're going to sew a 1/4 of an inch on this one and flip it over, and a 1/4 of an inch on this one. I have these done, so I'm not going to go ahead and sew these, but I'm just showing you how I got to this point. And again, a 1/4 of an inch. All right, so do not press yet. Now that we have our 3 pieces with our cornerstone on the 2 sables, we're going to line them up and we're going to add some side triangles. So here's our, all right, so what I've done is I've sewn a little bit, but I haven't pressed anything really. Here are my 5 with the corners. And what I did to each of these strips is I took one of my side setting triangles and I just laid them right into these openings. So as I sewed, I could take my strip and add my sides setting triangles. All right, so now I have 5 rows. Each of these rows has a side setting triangle. These have already had the corners on them and the side settings. And now is when we want to press. So we're going to flip this over and we're going to press the first row in one direction, the next row in the opposite direction, and we're just going to keep going in opposite directions as we lay our rows down. Okay, so that way, and then that way, that way, that way, this way. So when we pick these up and we sew these together, we will be able to match our seams into a little nest, and they will butt right together, and we'll have some really nice intersections on the corners. All right, so I left one open so we could do it together. And what I'm going to do, all I did was sew this to this, this to this, and so far I've sewn this one, and this one. So we're going to take our two pieces, and we want to match up lock our seam. And as I drag it across, it locks right into place, and this one too. And you'll notice how out here I get these little dog ears sticking out. It's super important that when you sew, you come right in through this valley to do your 1/4 of an inch. And when you're done, you come right out the valley for your 1/4 of an inch. That way it ensures that this is riding nice and straight. So let's go ahead to the sewing machine. We're going to sew this down. We're going to press it and come back with our final corners. All right, so I'm just going to start on one end. Again, making sure my needle falls right in that V. I'm going to just set the next intersection up, which is the top and bottom. I just want to kind of feel with my finger just to make sure that these two seams are nested right on top of each other. Then I'll go ahead and sew my 1/4 seam allowance till I get to that point. I'll stop, needle down, and again, feel for these two seams to sit right next to each other. And then I can go ahead and sew to the next intersection. Stop. Get those seams right again, butted next to each other or nesting. And then we can go ahead. Takes a little bit of time, but it really does ensure a nice corners. All right, so now I'm at the end. I want to make sure that when I line this part up, I'm coming right out this V at my 1/4 of an inch. So my edges are right on top of each other. I have this sticking out and I have this bottom one sticking out. So I want to come in right in that V. So hold your seam down, and there we are. So you can see where the threads come out in that little area right there. All right, so let's go press this. And we're going to press it all in one direction, and then we're going to add our last two, and I'll show you how to put the two corners pieces on. So we're going to just flip this over on its back. And again, just be very careful. The way we cut the side seams, these are with the grain. So these are not going to stretch as much on the outside of our quilt or our block, for instance. Neither will these, the edges of our cornerstone. This was the bias, as you recall. We only cut this on the diagonal once. So this is what's stretching right here. But since it's sewn to a block that is on the grain, it doesn't have as much stretch. So I use a lot of best press when I go to press my kits before I sew them. So again, we're just going to kind of push the seams down and just hold them. Hold the heat on them and try not to do a lot of iron motion. Kind of open up the seam, and again, I'm just pushing it in one direction. Take your time. Pressing is just as important as sewing and cutting. So have yourself a very nice iron. We just got a brand new iron in the store. It's cordless. It's auto shut off. It heats up in less than 7 seconds. It's a beautiful iron to take to classes if you're looking in the market for a new iron, you should check it out. Okay, so all these are pressed in one direction. I'll just take it to the front and give it one more press. Very gentle, little heat. All right, so guess what we're missing? Our two corners. We did these already, so now we have to do these. So let's go back to the sewing machine and add our last two corners. So we're going to make sure right sides are together. And we're going to bring this over. And again, equal distance. And that it comes out the intersection here and here as well. So let's take this over to the sewing machine. We want to be very careful with that because that is the bias of the white one. Okay, one more check. So making sure we went in where that V is and out that V. Super important. All right, let's flip it around and do the very last piece. Make sure I have the right side of my fabric. I'm going to center it over that sable fabric. There we go. It's going to go in this side. Super easy block this month. I hope you enjoy it. And one last nice little press on those two corners. And here's our block, 12.5 unfinished, but it will be 12 finished. So you notice that these lines or the edges, I have my 1/4 inch seam allowance and the edges are nice and straight going across. It's because I hit those little angles right on the V. Press it good. What else? Good.
Do you want them all orientated the same way?
No. So that was a very good question. These seeds can go in any direction that you want. If you are wanting them to go all in one direction, kind of like I did in this block here, you can set them up that way. I had my white going in this direction and my black seed going in that direction. It does not matter. It does not matter. So do the best you can. And I've already sewn this into my borders. And this is called On Point. So I hope you enjoy it. And come on in, get your kits. I'll see you on Saturday, starting June 15th. 10 o'clock for your June kits. Thanks for watching. Bye.